Now, over the weekend, I was part of a heated conversation on retirements and retirement options. And I know I've made a couple of recordings talking about this topic, sharing my views based off of experience and hands-on, helping clients from different ages, from their 30s planning for it, in their 50s strategizing on how to monetize their years in retirement. And from both perspectives, I've kind of created my own theory, and it's this: the systems that are available to us, or that are available in the market anyway, have not served the purpose of which they were created for. Back in the day, and this is a problem that I've seen reoccurring, is the fact that most Americans and most immigrants especially are living on information that is obsolete, which means it's not viable anymore. It's not practical anymore. It used to be when the 401k system was created back in the day, when Social Security was created back in the day. The purpose for Social Security and the purpose for 401ks, 403bs, and IRAs were genuine back when it started years ago. Okay, the whole idea of leaving the pension plan, where you had a guaranteed amount you were going to be making from your employer, to now a contributory kind of a plan where you decide how much you want to end up with in retirement, initially worked, but doesn't work anymore, because the average person has no idea how much they're going to need in retirement, are contributing way less than they should be, and the systems that have been designed to help you propel your retirement or help you design this quote-unquote ideal retirement are not working. Are not working in numerous ways. I'm going to list just a couple of them. And so when you leave the responsibility of saving to someone who is not educated on how to save in the first place and has no idea of how much to allocate for that savings, then it becomes a recipe for disaster. And that is what we've seen happen over the years. That's why we see a lot of retirees not able to maintain or sustain their retirement. That's what we've experienced with most people who have this grand idea of what retirement is going to look like, but end up short and live the rest of their lives in depression and stress, because the systems have not done what they were supposed to do. So talk of how the system has failed us, or is failing most people. And I'm not here to condemn or to outright speak out or instruct or advise on or against any 401k contributions or any 403b. That's not my intention at all. As a matter of fact, 401k still have a place. I believe they do, because if your company is matching your contributions, I think that is a great way for you to contribute more into your plan. However much that contribution is up to you and your employer. Some match 5%, some match 4%, some match a little bit more than that, or some match a dollar amount. So it would be outright negligent not to claim or not to match at least what your employer is contributing, is not to contribute what your employer is matching. I believe that is a financially savvy thing to do. And you're contributing post-tax money, which again has its own advantages. That is, if you know where taxes are going to be when you retire, could be a brilliant plan to go that route. 403bs and IRAs have their place, okay? But the truth is this: for most people who have solely depended on 401ks and 403bs and IRAs, the truth is that they end up short, because the way these portfolios are managed is through a manager, a portfolio manager as they're called, with any provider, be it with Fidelity, be it with Prudential, be it with Transamerica, be it with Vanguard or Principal or whatever provider is managing your 401k. They have portfolio managers that are quote unquote experts to make sure you don't lose your money in the market. So they have targeted funds. Some of them outright invest directly in the market. So there is no certainty of whether or not you end up growing funds in that account. The idea is that you do over the years, of course. And so some of the things that could and that do affect your portfolio include fluctuations in the market, which means, yes, your money could be sitting in a targeted fund where you have a mix of bonds and stocks or index funds. That way you can make, your volatility is kind of limited, because when you have bonds are not as volatile. So they're not, riding the ups and downs of the stock market, so to speak. Your bonds do go up and down, like right now. Index funds just as much, but index funds, so this is what an index fund is. An index fund is basically a group of companies, or a group of companies in a particular industry, for example, or in multiple industries that have been grouped together, and you're credited the average performance of that fund, of that index. So think of it as not buying an Apple stock outright, or not buying an Nvidia stock outright, or an Alphabet stock outright, or not buying like a Tesla stock outright, but Tesla, Nvidia, Facebook, blah 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 blah, they're all put in one basket, and then you're given the average performance of these stocks. So that makes it less volatile, because if something was happening with Apple but Nvidia is on the rise, then you would still make the average. So that's what makes index funds more or less volatile, so to speak. So these fund managers that are supposed to manage your 401k, that's basically what they do. They dump your money in whatever fund they decide is good for you. And this is the other part I need to add. They decide. You don't get to choose. In most cases, you don't get to choose. Some providers may let you choose what funds. They may give you options, but again, the options they're giving you are the ones they have chosen. So you don't get to be like, no, I want Apple to be part of my retirement. No, you don't get to do all of that in your 401k, for most cases anyway. Some of them may let you do it, but most of them don't let you. They don't give you that authority to do that. So they choose for you. And so you have no control over whether or not you make money over the years. Yes, the idea is that you make money, but the truth is you have no control. All right? So you're riding the fluctuation of the stock market. Yes, the markets go up and down, and traditionally the market over time is on the up and up. If you look at the S&P 500, for example, for the past, 20, 30 years, 40 years, it's on the rise for sure. That's a given. No arguments about that. It becomes a concern when you're looking at not just average returns, but also actual returns. And depending on where the market is going to be when you retire is where the big problem is. So these managers are supposed to help you figure out all of this. So you don't have to think about all this. And that is where the problem is. That is where the big problem is, because the average person doesn't have to figure out how all of these things I'm telling you work. And because you don't have to concern yourself with it, even though it's your money, they end up giving you whatever they can. And they have no vested interest in you making money, because you're paying them a management fee, by the way. You're paying them a management fee to manage your fund, which is fair. For the work they're doing for you, or supposedly doing for you, you should be paying them for that. But they have no loyalty to you to guarantee that you're making money. They have no loyalty to you, because remember, these fund managers have about a couple of hundred or even 1,000 funds they're managing. So guess what? They're not actively sitting there every day watching your 401k, making sure you don't lose money or you make money. They're not doing that. They have things they've designed, like systems they've created, and say, okay, we're going to dump everyone who works in company A are going to be in this strategy, everyone that works in company B. We're going to sit with their board of directors and propose these funds we have, and then tell them why they are great for them, and then they're going to authorize us to dump their 401ks in this fund. And that's how it works. But that's how it works on paper anyway, even in practice. So with that, we've seen a lot of people retiring with way less than they anticipated. Way less. When I tell you less, it's the gap between where you think you're going to be and where you end up is astronomical. All right? I've gotten to sit down with a lot of folks, a lot of individuals who are retired, and I've tracked when they started contributing, how much they've contributed so far into their account, and how much they were supposed to end up with, and how much they actually ended up with. And the difference is jaw-dropping, to say the least. Jaw-dropping. Because again, the fund may not perform as good as you think or you were told, and fluctuations in the market over the years, and then management fees kind of chop into that return that you were supposed to make. So that is one of them. Secondly is taxes. Taxes. I forgot which president said there are two things guaranteed in life: death and taxes. Roosevelt? Was it Roosevelt? Don't quote me on that. I'm not sure about the name. But there are two things guaranteed: taxes and death, for sure. Because the last time I checked, it's 100% certainty. 100%. Without a shadow of a doubt. That every single person born is going to die. That is a guarantee. We don't have to sugarcoat it. The other thing in the United States of America that you can be sure of, that is 100% guarantee, is that you're going to pay taxes. You're going to pay taxes whether you like it or not. And so your 401k or 403b or IRA or whatever fund you're using to prepare for your retirement are mostly tax deferred. Mostly tax deferred because there are tax-free portfolios out there. But they are mostly tax deferred. And how does this tax deference mean? Or what does it mean to your fund? It means you're not paying taxes right now when you're contributing to it. That's why you contribute post-tax money, with the hopes of growing it at a lower tax rate right now. At a higher tax rate, with the promise that hopefully in the future taxes are lower, so you get to pay less taxes than you would pay right now. That is the trade-off. The trade-off is this: I think taxes are high right now, so I'm not going to take out my money. The IRS promises, or the government promises, I should contribute this post-tax money right now because taxes are high. And then hopefully when I'm 65, taxes are going to be lower. And so I can pay less taxes when I retire. I'm going granular here because we need to understand this piece. That's exactly what you're doing. Each time you contribute to any fund or any portfolio that is tax deferred. So you're deferring your taxes to a point in time when you presumably are going to pay less. But the truth is this, and these are the facts. Taxes have been up and up and keep going up for the past, I don't know how long. Which means someone who contributed 60 years ago, or 30 years ago, was at a lower tax bracket. Or was the taxes were lower back then. It means if they paid their taxes back then, and contributed to a tax-free account, they would be good. But what happened was, back then taxes were lower. So they deferred their taxes to now, when taxes are even higher. And now they're facing the consequences of ending up in a 40% tax bracket, in a 30% tax bracket. And that is just because of what we were sold, or what they were sold. And when I look at everything else that is going on in the economy, let's not even talk about tariffs. Let's just look at how the economy is doing. The United States deficit or debt ratio for the past zillion years, the last time I checked, the deficit has been increasing every single year. I'm yet to see a decline in that. It went from about $32 trillion in about, I don't know, don't quote me on this, but I think that was 2022, 32 trillion. I saw it go from to 33 trillion to 34, and now in April of 2025, we're sitting at over 36 trillion dollars in debt. That is how much the United States government owe. 36 trillion dollars in debt, and it's ever increasing. So the question I have for you is this: how else does the government make money? How else do they make money? The majority of their income is from taxes. They get to tax the average Joe. They get to tax companies and foreign governments to have money to run the system. And if they have done such a bad job at managing the resources to where the debt is increasing and always increasing, where do you think that money is going to come to pay off debt? I can tell you for free that it's going to come from more taxes. So are taxes most likely to go up or lower? You answer that for yourself. You'll be the judge of that. Do you think taxes are going to go up over the years, or at some point they're going to go lower? You get to answer that question. So guess what? When I sit down with folks right now, that is what we talk about. When they started contributing to their 401k 30 years ago or 20 years ago, taxes were lower. That their tax bracket would have been lower if they took out their taxes, or if they paid their taxes back then. But they deferred it to now when taxes are this high, and they have no choice but to pay the taxes, because they're now at a stage where they need to distribute money and fund their retirement. So that's where we are. So that's the second thing, and that's how it affects your retirement, taxes. And then guess what? There is something called an RMD, required minimum distribution. The IRS is so smart. The system is designed in such a way that you pay your taxes whether you like it or not. And if you don't pay your taxes on time and when we want you to pay, we're going to penalize you for not paying. And that's exactly what a required minimum distribution means. Because for those who want to be smart and say, when I get to 70, when I get to 65, I'm not going to take any money from my 401k or my 403b because I don't want to pay taxes. The system already has a plan for you. And the plan is that you're going to pay even higher taxes. The last time I checked, it was about 50%. Or close to 80%-ish, about. Okay? I'm not too sure about the percentage, but think about it for a second. The IRS has a law that says when you get to 65, you're supposed to start distributing your funds from your 401k so that you can pay the IRS. That's the only time they get to make money. Because for 30 years, they've let you defer your taxes and not pay them, and yet they're cut. But at 65, they expect you to start distributing that money so they can get their cut. So they have this rule that if you get to 70 years old, they have a percentage you're supposed to be distributing anyway. So if you get to 70, or is it 72? 70, and you have not distributed as much money as we expected you to distribute, it means you're being smart. It means you're not taking out as much as you were supposed to take out. Guess what we're going to do? We're going to tax you. We're going to increase your tax bracket. Let's say your tax bracket was 25. We're going to bump it up to maybe 50% or even more, because you didn't take the required minimum distribution. You did not take out your own money from your own plan. Okay, they have a required minimum distribution, so you can't just say I'm only gonna take 5,000 and then depend on my kids to fund the rest of my retirement. It doesn't work like that. If you do that, you end up paying more, and that's just how the system works. So you gotta look at all these nuances and kind of decide what plan works for you. And then let's talk about Social Security for a second, because I was shocked to learn that your Social Security can be taxed. And a lot of people are out here depending on Social Security somehow, believing that Social Security is going to pay them enough to retire comfortably. That is a big fat lie. That's a recipe for disaster. That is most people that end up on GoFundMe's, or most people that end up, working into their 60s or 80s because they depend on Social Security. This is first-hand experience. This gentleman that I know, he is currently 73 years old. And we're chatting once, and I asked him, because I'm a very curious person, and I asked him, how much are you getting from Social Security? Because I know you're making some money from Social Security. Well, yeah, he was trying to I was helping him design something. I forgot what plan we were designing. And then I was looking into his income. And he mentioned what he earns. He said, I get paid by Social Security. And I'm like, oh, that's amazing. So how much do you make? And he mentioned the amount, and I was like, you gotta be kidding me, right? What other source of income do you have? And that's it. That's his only source of income. Social Security. Guess how much that was? Guess. $868 a month. $868 a month is all he makes from Social Security every month. He still has to pay for groceries and utilities. He's sick. He's not healthy and everything else. So that's what he's working on. $868 every single month. That's all he's making. So you got to think about it for a second, right? So planning on retiring on Social Security is such a bad plan. It almost never works. So I urge you, start rethinking your retirement plans, because I'm telling you, it's not fun. When you get to those ages and you see what is available for you, the only regret is you have no time to fix it. You have zero time to fix that. When you're already 65, I can't do anything for you. No one can, actually. We can only, try to salvage the situation, but you have your best years when you're still in your 20s, when you're still in your 30s, 40s, 50s. When you're already nearing 60 or above, there's almost nothing you can do to really salvage the situation, because you're out of time to do a lot of compounding. I'm not saying you cannot do that. The market has already done whatever it's supposed to do to your account. Your tax bracket is almost certain because your kids are grown and out of the house. So there are a lot of things that are already set on stone that we cannot revert. And so if there is anything I can recommend, is that you take a closer look at whether or not you are positioning yourself to retire comfortably, retire peacefully, retire stress-free, and retire without depression. It's been a great conversation. I'm going to make another version of this, talking more about the solution and not just the problem. Because it's not enough to just identify problems. It's also, what is the solution? Now that, okay, Bruno, I've listened to all of this and I'm thinking about it, and I want to make a change. I want to do something different. What else can I do apart from my 401k, apart from my 403b or TSP or whatever plan? Apart from that, let that keep going. All right. But what else can I do to make sure that I am preparing better for my retirement? And that's what I'm going to cover. We're going to talk about strategies that help you remedy the fluctuations of the stock market, that help you remedy taxes, that help you design a more secured, I don't want to say guaranteed because nothing is guaranteed, a more predictable retirement plan. All right. So watch out for that video. If you like this video, like it, share it, comment, of course, what stood out to you. If you didn't understand any part of this, leave a question in the comment section. And until next time, stay safe. See ya.